Welcome to the Success Talk Show, the podcast for ambitious leaders who want to get their best results and create a workplace for their teams to thrive. Each week we share practical advice to help you accelerate your success and grow as an inspiring leader. Now here's your host, Leadership Success Coach, Donna Siriani.
Welcome to another episode of the Success Talk Show. This is Donna Siriani, Leadership Success Coach and founder of Success Compass Academy. This is the first episode in a series on personal branding, and specifically how to leverage your personal brand to achieve your goals. But before we get started, I want to just quickly introduce myself in case you're listening for the first time. I just want to give you a little bit of background so you have some context for what I'm going to share with you. Now, I've spent my entire career in technology. I started off as a programmer out of college, worked my way up to senior leadership roles in technology organizations where I was managing teams across the US, Europe, and Asia. My last corporate role was as Chief People Officer for a software company. And as much as I loved championing a fantastic company culture and winning a Best Place to Work award, I was drawn to leave my corporate roles behind to become a full-time coach and consultant. So now I help leaders in technology accelerate growth, both for themselves personally and for their organizations, while creating a workplace for their teams to thrive. So that's a little bit of background on me. Now let's talk about you. What I really want to start with is what your goals are. The whole point for me of getting clear on your personal brand, defining what it is, really gaining some insight on that, being deliberate about your brand, the whole point of that, from my point of view, it's all about achieving your goals. So let's talk about what those goals might be and how having a clear or strong brand is going to help you. So think about what's on your mind right now for your goals. Is it to get promoted to the next level? Maybe you've got your eye on a specific position at your company and you want to advance to that level. And maybe that requires, it might require not just your boss, but others to see you as potentially being very successful in that role, right? You may need a lot of support before you get that role. Or it could be, maybe you want to be a speaker in your industry. You want to be seen as a thought leader. You want to be going to industry events, speaking in front of clients. You want to be seen as an expert in your field. Or, maybe there's a new role that maybe it's not within your company. Maybe you're going through a job search. You've got your eye on other companies, other roles, and you're going to really rely on your personal network to help you find that next opportunity that's, somewhere else. It's not the company you're working for today. Or it could be you already are happy with your company, you're happy with your role, but you want to have a stronger brand because you want to be seen as having tremendous executive presence. You want to really be seen as a very strong, influential leader, and you recognize that having a strong personal brand is going to be integral to that success. You may just want to have a greater impact in your organization. You want to be more visible. So whatever your goal is, the first step is to think about your personal brand. How do you connect the dots from your brand to your goals? And that's what I really want to start with. Depending on your exposure to the topic of personal branding, you might be a little skeptical. You might be thinking, personal branding, it sounds like a little bit of marketing fluff. I'm not the type to be a self-promoter. Maybe I'm an introvert, whatever the case may be. But let's think about what it will take for you to achieve any of these goals that I've listed just as examples. So for you to accomplish any of them requires that other people see you in those roles. So let's take, for example, getting promoted to the next level. Your boss, and maybe your boss's boss, and maybe some other senior leaders, other colleagues, need to see you as somebody who has the strengths, the experience, skills, expertise, ability, potential to step into that role and be successful. So you're relying on other people to see you as a good fit. that you can be successful. Now, this would be true whether the example of being an industry speaker, you want to be called upon to speak at more conferences, you want a new role at another company, so you're going to look for people to speak on your behalf and say, oh my God, you've got to talk to Joe. He's fantastic. He's exactly what we're looking for. For somebody to advocate on your behalf, they need to know enough about you, right, that they're willing to advocate for you because they can see a clear connection between what they're saying about you, how they've experienced you, what you've done for them in the past or with them, and what that new opportunity requires. Now, if they can't see that, if they can't make the connection of who you are, what you stand for, the results that you typically get, they're going to be reluctant to throw your name or your hat in the ring, right? For that, whatever that opportunity is, whether it's a job, a speaking engagement, a client assignment, or whatever it is, they're going to be reluctant, okay? So when you think about your brand, okay, let's just demystify what your brand is for a minute. Your brand is essentially your reputation. It's what you're known for. And if you ask someone, what am I known for, right? They're going to tell you their experience of you, what you're good at, what they see you're good at, right? Your strengths, your talents, your expertise, your knowledge. They may also describe how they see you show up in the workplace, your behavior, your attitudes, things that you could think of as your values, your behaviors in terms of, emotional intelligence. Do you show up as somebody who's reliable, trustworthy, transparent, optimistic, flexible, adaptable, confident, right? These are just samples of, characteristics. Somebody may use some combination of those to describe you, right? And they may also, if you are showing passion about something, oh, you're passionate about a new technology, you're passionate about blockchain, you're passionate about selling, right? You love business development, you're passionate about the niche that your company is operating in or creating, okay? So your passions play a big role. So how others see you and describe you is entirely relevant. But the piece of that I want to focus on for a minute is your brand isn't something where after you listen to this podcast, you're going to be able to sit down, make a list, and say, that's my brand. You want to really reflect on your top strengths, values, passions, and how you think others see you. You're going to want to go into enough detail. It's a process that may take a little bit of time. I'll talk more about that in a minute. There is a step-by-step process I take my clients through. But for now, you can think about your brand as a combination of all those ingredients, right? How you are seen, how you're known. Now, the aspect of this, of why I say you can't really just sit down and write it out in one sitting, is your brand needs to be consistent and authentic for people to trust you and for them to advocate for you. So let's say, for example, let's say you were to make a list of how you want to be seen, but that's not really how you show up every day. Maybe you're very operational, you're really an expert at how to get operational excellence in the forefront, detailed procedures, flawless execution. Well, you can't sit down and say, I'm going to be known as somebody who's strategic, who's a visionary. Well, you can say it, but if that's not really your sweet spot of where you really do show your expertise, then that's not going to be authentic. So the point here is you don't want to design a brand. You want to get clear on how you already show up today. What's authentic for you? What do you love to do? What do you love spending your time on that you are so good at that you could just lose track of time, right? It has to be authentic. You do not want to try to be something that you're not, because if you do, others will see that it's not consistent, right? They'll say, this person's trying to be something else. There's a disconnect here. And then what happens when you're not acting authentically is that, little by little, trust is eroded. Now, I just want to digress for a second and tell you that as a leader, one of the things that people are really sort of constantly evaluating is your executive presence. And it's a term that sometimes is defined very loosely, but one key component of executive presence is you being authentic, you being an authentic leader. So when you're positioning yourself in what you're good at, you're trying to instill confidence that others have in you, that you can lead the organization, you want them to trust who you are, what you stand for, you want others to follow you, you want them to trust in your decision making. That needs to be grounded in your authenticity, right? Because people will not trust you and want to follow you if there's a disconnect between what you say and what you do, how you pretend to be versus the actions that you actually take, right? So authenticity is of huge importance. So keep in mind that whatever it is that you're good at, passionate about, your values, you are bringing your gifts to the table. So there's absolutely no reason for you to try to be anybody but who you really are. Step into it and own it. Now, I'll just give you a really quick example. I don't know if I've shared this story on the podcast before, but many years ago, when I was managing a software development group, a senior leader did come to me, and he knew that I was contemplating giving up a leadership role so I could go back to being more of a hands-on developer. And he talked me out of it. And he said, Donna, we have lots of people who are great with technology, but I have very few people who are strong leaders. You have excellent leadership skills. I need you to stay as a leader in the organization. And that was the first time anyone had ever acknowledged my skill set in that way. I knew that I was good at getting projects done, managing people, accomplishing quite a bit. But for somebody to call me a leader and then call me out and say, that is something so valuable, we need you to stay in this role, that was a turning point for me. Because the point of personal branding is you don't want to be trying to be somebody that you're not, because we sometimes overvalue what we're not. And I was overvaluing all of the people on my team who were so smart about the technology. And the more I focused as a manager and a leader, the less I understood or the less I was conversant in the latest tools that we were using. And that really bothered me. So you want to think about the value you bring to the table, own it, claim it, stand for it, and don't think to yourself, I'm not as good, or what I'm bringing to the table isn't as good or as valuable as what other people are bringing. You have special gifts they don't have. So you, through your personal branding reflection, you're looking for that combination of things that you bring to the table that nobody else can bring. Okay? So you need to step into it and own it. Now, when you're being authentic, I also mentioned consistency. So how you present yourself and what you focus on as who you are, what you stand for, what's important to you, again, what you're good at and enjoy doing, your values, all of that. It all makes up your personal brand. You want to be consistent. So let's say you have meetings this week with, of course you do, right? With several different people from the same or different organizations. If you're sharing with them a part of who you are, you do want to make sure there's some level of consistency. So for example, here's where your goals come in. Let's say that one of your goals is that you want to have a bigger impact in your organization. And let's say, just as an example, let's say that you love leading and managing change, right? Those initiatives that are transforming the organization, using new technology, changing how you're doing things, and you want to be at the forefront of that. You love it, you're good at it, and you want to do more of it, okay? So every time you meet with people, if this, for example, is one of your sweet spots, you want to always be interacting, communicating in a consistent way such that that becomes how people know you. Right? I'm talking about this fictitious person, Joe. We've got this big initiative coming up and it requires somebody who's really good at managing change. Oh, we've got to bring Joe in. He's an expert at that, right? You want your name to be top of mind so that it connects with your goals. So in this example, I was saying, if you want to position yourself to have a greater impact in the organization and you happen to have a goal around a certain type of initiative that you love to work on, if I were to ask your colleagues or the people making the decision, would they instantly think of you? Now, if the answer is no, they wouldn't. That tells me they don't know you well enough. Maybe you're not communicating consistently. That's a question for you to think about, right? And going a step further, is your behavior, the way you interact, is it consistent with that? Like if you yourself personally, when change comes about, you go in your office, close the door, you hide, you know where to be found, you seem to be nervous, you're resistant, then, there's a disconnect between how you're behaving and how you want to be known. So again, here we're talking about consistency. What you share with other people, right? Consistent messaging from person to person so they get this sort of common view or shared view of you. And there's consistency even between what you say and what you do. If you say you're a change agent, but then when change comes about that affects you, you run for the hills, there's a disconnect, right? So again, we talked about authenticity and consistency. Now, the third piece, and this is really a result of both of those, is trust. Because if you're authentic, if you're consistent, the byproduct of that is I'm going to have greater trust in you. If you say, and again, I keep using that example of managing change, but if you say you're good at it, and I can see from your track record, you are an expert at managing transformation, then I'm going to have greater trust that you're the best candidate for that role, for that promotion, for that initiative, for that opportunity. So as you can see, there's a very strong connection between the goals that you have and how you are living out your personal brand, right? You can see there's a direct connection. So let's take a different scenario. The scenario of I have several clients who have wanted to become, or I shouldn't say become, who really thrive at doing industry conferences, speaking to hundreds of clients, really being in that spotlight. One client absolutely loves giving presentations because he views it as an opportunity to educate and inspire, and he loves presenting to clients. So in that case, if there was an opportunity to do more of that, right, he needs to let it be known that his goal is to do more of that. I love doing it. I get great feedback from clients. If there's an opportunity, I'd like to do more, right? Plant the seed so other people see what you're capable of. They see you've gotten good results. It's authentic, consistent, and they trust you. So when an opportunity comes up for him to speak at additional conferences, his name will be at the top of the list, right? So there's a connection between your brand and your goals, okay? Now we're going to dissect this a little bit more in the next podcast episode, but I wanted to get you first thinking about your goals, getting really clear on your goals, and then starting to think about your brand. When I say brand, you're going to define your brand as what you're good at, right? Your strengths, those specific kinds of activities where you shine. And, you can start with a list. I go deeper on this with my clients, but you can start by simply looking at your current role and making that list of the top 10 or 15 things where you're really good at it and be as specific as possible. If saying things like, I'm good at communication, teamwork, projects, those are too vague. You want to get really detailed on precisely what you're good at, like what aspect of that. We're also going to drill down a little bit more in getting feedback from other people, right? Because how other people describe you and how they see you is important. Now you might be wondering, well, wait a minute, if I have a clear, strong personal brand, why do I need input from other people? Well, the reason is twofold. One, you may take for granted something that comes so naturally to you, you don't even give it a second thought. It's like, brushing your teeth in the morning, right? You just don't think about it. You do it automatically. I can't tell you how many times with my coaching clients, somebody most often, almost everyone takes for granted the things that come naturally to them, and it turns out that their colleagues, it's at the top of the list of what their colleagues most appreciate. So for example, if you are highly reliable, you're consistent, you're a person of your word, and you can be counted on 100% to always do exactly what you say you're going to do, that might be something you take for granted because it's part of your DNA. It's just who you are. It's how you operate. Well, it's not true for everybody, but it might be true for you. But you might just take that for granted because, well, of course that's how you operate. But other people recognize that that is something unique to you. Unfortunately, not everybody, has that as their top quality, right? And I'm not judging. I'm just laughing. I'm not judging. In the survey that I use, there's like 64 different attributes, and they're all equally valuable. But you may take for granted what's your top strengths because they're so easy for you, okay? So number one, the reason to get feedback from other people is you may be discovering that something that comes easily to you is actually what people appreciate most. Secondly, it can, and they go hand in hand, might amplify a blind spot. You may think that the reason people most appreciate you is because you're innovative and creative. And that might not be it. They may most appreciate the fact that you're a truth teller, right? You tell it like it is. You don't sugarcoat it. You don't beat around the bush. You're fully transparent. You're a straight talker, and they really appreciate that about you because they always know exactly where they stand with you, what the situation is, the problems, challenges, etc. You're a truth teller, and they love that. And you might, again, it might amplify and shine a spotlight on something you didn't even realize, okay? Now, the difference between that and the first one is if you're doing a self-assessment, there may be things you're good at, but you just don't realize how strongly they're being appreciated. And the other is you might not see it at all, right? It didn't even occur to you it could be a strength, okay? So anyway, very, very similar what I'm saying, but how others describe you can serve as holding up a mirror and saying, these are the things I think I'm really good at. What do other people really appreciate? Where are my blind spots? Okay. So it's not to suggest that you're going to change your brand to meet other people's goals for you. You're going to stick to your goals, but that's just additional data to help you really craft your brand. And again, we'll get into the specifics on how you can go about doing this and specific actions in the next episode. But I want you to first think about, number one, what do you most want to be known for, right? Just as an overarching question about your brand. When I ask people that question right up front, they may want to be known as an inspiring speaker, a leader who develops their team, or a change agent, or somebody who is really able to solve complex problems, whatever it is, okay? So think about that. And the second thing is think about your goals. So this multi-part series is going to be about how to leverage your personal brand to achieve your goals. So what are those goals? Think about that number one goal you have right now. And how can you start connecting the dots between how you want to be seen, how you want to be known, and what the goal is. So for example, you want to have a greater impact in the organization. Okay, well, how do you want to be seen? What is it you want to be tapped for? And I was using the example of managing change, but maybe you want to be the person who is helping redesign the organization, right? You want to be seen as somebody who really understands how to build high-performance teams. Whatever it is, right? You need to get clear on that because once you're clear on it, we're going to start talking about, okay, so now how do you make that happen? Okay, we're going to talk about some steps, some actions, some steps and behaviors. So at this point, what I do want to mention to you is I'm giving you some high-level steps that you can start today, and those were the first two. What do you want to be known for, and what are your goals? Okay, and then start connecting the dots. But if you were looking for some real intimate guidance, I do have an online coaching program, and I just want to share how to find out more about that if you really want to go much deeper. I guide people through a step-by-step process, And you can find out about it by simply going to a web page. The title is myownsuccesscompass.com. You can go to that web page and it will list out the details of the program. And I take my clients through that, and it goes step by step on helping them gain this clarity. And people are coming to that program looking for how they can clarify their brand and achieve their goals. Same types of goals we're looking at here. Maybe they're at a crossroads in their career, looking to make some decisions on what steps to take next. Where do they want to go next in their career? They want to position themselves for a new role, a promotion. Maybe they just want to feel more satisfied in their career, feel more satisfaction in their choices, or have a greater impact. So it's all the same goals that we've been talking about. So anyway, I encourage you to take a look at that if you're interested in doing a deeper dive and possibly working together. The other thing I want to point you to is you can go to my website to download a free PDF that will walk you through the personal branding framework that we'll be talking about on the next couple of episodes. You can go to donnasirianni.com, and on the home page is a PDF you can download, Personal Branding Framework. And it's a fantastic tutorial to give you a high-level overview of the program that I mentioned a minute ago. It's a really great tool. So with that, I want to just wrap up and say in the next episode, we'll start talking about specific strategies that you can use to align your actions and your time with your brand so that you can make progress toward achieving your goals. So with that, I want to thank you for listening and wish you a great day and look forward to speaking with you in the next episode.